as we sit here today as a council, we are to some extent here as a parliament. We make laws. When an agreement is signed and it goes to the minister and she extends that agreement, she's making a law. It is a secondary legislation, but it has the impact as all other legislation. So we have an enormous responsibility to make legislation that will create confidence amongst ourselves, in the sense that we must see a future for ourselves, all of us. We must create business confidence. We must stimulate business. We must create work. And we must create an environment in which workers can improve their abilities, their skills, and their living standards. So we have a huge responsibility towards South Africa. We are faced with an acceptable high unemployment rate. Most probably one of the highest, if not the highest unemployment rate in the world. And regardless of the reasons for that, we have one thing in common, and that is that we have to find a way, as the legislators for this industry, we have to find a way in which we are going to create work again. Where we differ, where we fundamentally differ, ideologically different. I'm Afrikaans, did you realize that?
Surprise, surprise.
Where we do differ, and we differ fundamentally, is how are we going to create work. And if you compare what I say, and you compare that to what the person from NEASA this morning said, you understand that we disagree fundamentally on how we are going to create work, because we come from different worlds almost. 40% of South Africans receive some other form of a grant, either unemployment or a grant. And that money is paid for by 5 million taxpayers out of the 50 million. 5 million taxpayers sustain those grants, and 4% of taxpayers in South Africa pay 80% of the tax bill. 4%. Now, if we weaken that 4%, and we can call them whatever we want, but if we weaken that 4%, we're going to get into severe trouble. So, how does the government foot this bill to pay the 20 million and pay all their commitments? Well, they can't pay it. That's the fact. We say we can get into trouble. We're already in trouble. Our state debt relative to our GDP has increased from 2009 to now from 27% to 50%. Now, if that's a business, you're bankrupt. You cannot do this. You cannot continue. Bank will not give you any more money. But in world economics, you can't actually go totally bankrupt. Just in this year, another 735,000 people will be added to the number of people receiving social grants. Can't afford it. So South Africa is perhaps not, well, very close to entering a debt trap. And when that happens, and interest rates starting to climb, and we find it more difficult to get money, and when we find it more difficult to pay these people the money that they got used to, then we are going to enter into a phase of severe hardship and social instability. Now, there are people that argue that this is actually a good thing. Those that exploit hardship and poverty and inequality for political gain, that they want this to happen. They want South Africa to run out of money, and they want businesses to fail, because that gives them what they want. South Africa is making no dent in our unemployment challenge. Just in February, we had a net loss of 100,000 employees in the job market. 100,000. The private sector, the growth in the private sector employment is constantly negative. And you will understand that the private sector is the only sector that really can create real jobs. Nobody else can. Government can give people work, but they can't create work. And when they give people work, they pay them with tax money. So they're not part of the solution, they're part of the problem. So when Mr. Zuma said they're going to create 6 million jobs, I start sweating, because I'm going to pay for it. And the guy that's employing is not going to work properly. Who's also creating work? The informal sector, these guys that's making money through living on the streets, selling sweets, plastic bags, and umbrellas, they grow. The only reason that they grow is because they're not regulated. And they must move from place to place, because the moment the government finds them, they'll regulate them. Then they won't grow anymore. I mean, it's like in this industry, that's why we're not growing. Another reason for the fact that we are not creating work is because there's a constant decline of business confidence. Business no longer feel welcome in South Africa. And as long as we don't feel welcome, and as long as there's not a clear future spelled out for business, they're not going to invest, and they're not going to create work. We need to tell business you're welcome, and we need you, and there's a future for you, because if business do not employ, nobody will employ. Government said they will employ, they simply will not have the money to employ. So when Zuma said he will employ, he's not telling the truth, because he cannot employ one single person. So, you know, he's telling us a lot of things that we don't believe, but this one really isn't true. And then there is the constant notion that making a profit is a crime. It is as if business need to feel ashamed of the fact that they are doing well. Doing well is not good. You must just make it. You must just make it. Poor employers do not employ. Show me a poor employer. Well, there's no such thing as a poor employer. You're either a successful employer or you're not employing. You're out of business. Well, no, I'm not true. They are poor employees. They are battling employees. They're not all rich. That is wrong. But there's this notion in South Africa that it is a crime to do well. Now, when that happens in a nation, we're going downwards. Business must find ways to hide their wealth, because it's a crime to be wealthy and to be successful. But business will not work for anyone. Not for employers, not for shareholders. They will not invest in struggling businesses. and it will not work for employees either, unless it is profitable. So take that away, and you have no business. Then we must go to a completely new system, where everybody is just poor. You have to make money to stay in business, and you have to make good money to stay in business. That's how it works anywhere else in the world. Here as well, you have to make good money to stay in business. We need strong business in South Africa. We need skilled staff, and we need to produce or manufacture good products if we want to have a place in our global world. That is a reality which we will never be able to get around. That's a reality. But we live in an environment where there is hostility towards that reality. There's a Chinese, or no, I almost said there is a Chinese. Confucius, the Chinese philosopher, said, in a country well governed, poverty is something to be ashamed of. In a country badly governed, wealth is something to be ashamed of. So, when the government puts up a board, when I travel to Pretoria to say 18 million people on grants, I will take it off. That's not something you tell the world, that's a shame. You must have millions of people working, not paying grants. Oh, there's no future in paying. I've never seen a person send his children to university through grants. I mean, there's no future in this thing. South Africa is also facing the gap between the rich and the poor. Now, here in my notes it says the so-called rich and the poor. But I mean, that people take exception from that. But the thing is, I don't know what rich is. In fact, most of us sitting here in world terms are actually very rich. So I don't know, that's very relative. The thing is, this trend is growing. And so it is because of policies that it is growing. So what we do is, we do more of that policy, so that it will grow more. Then we give more of that policy, so that it grows more. No, it's not going to work. We need to change this thing. We need to do something else. The problem is that when government, and government is also us, because we're like a government to business and employees. The MEIBC is like a government. I mean, if the MEIBC inspector works into a workplace, I mean, it's like the end of the world. And rather a taxman walking in than an MEIBC inspector. I mean, these are scary guys to small business. But the more government interferes in business, the less business grows. That's how business reacts to interference. They draw back and they close doors. They survive, but they don't grow, because business people do not like interference. That's why they are business people. If you want a boss, you go to the government. If you want to be a new business, that's because you have a sense of independence. That's how it works. We need to take cognizance of that. If you interfere in the work world of business, what they do is they draw back and they employ less. That's why we have this huge problem. That's why in 5 years we've lost 258,000 jobs. NEASA said, the General Secretary recently said 700,000 jobs, but that's in the longer term. I believe both of them. There's not much left. So the more you try to fix it, the worse it becomes. But I understand that we are differing fundamentally on this. And there are some of us that says more interference. I say, well, if you do, you'll have less growth. So we say, levers. you disagree with that. I take it. The over-regulation of this industry has put this industry in a state of constant decline over years, and that will continue. According to the World Bank, South African manufacturing as a percentage to our GDP has dropped from 24% in 1994 to 12%. Now, it's halved. So, unless we do something completely different, it's simply going to continue. We want to talk about job creation, and we've done nothing about it. We're talking about it not we, they, because I'm not so long here. I'm not part of the destruction of the industry. But we've done nothing about it. We have a huge trade deficit, so we get stuff from outside, we can't make it ourselves. NEASA said this morning it's 100-something billion a year. This trade alone is 50 billion. So people say there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Remember this industry is right at the bottom, so a 1% movement is, it doesn't mean a lot, because there won't be real growth unless we do radical stuff. If we are going to leave the negotiations without addressing the radical stuff. Now we all hear with radical demands. I've just been told that, not by somewhere in NEASA, that if we implement NEASA's demands, it is 78%. I think it's a bit unreasonable. Let's go for let's aim for about 74%. 78%, all inclusive, is a bit high. And that's not, I'm just singling them out. I'm just singling them out now, just because Bushi is picking on me. If we go away without radically addressing these issues, we would have failed the employees in the industry, but we also would have failed the employees in the industry. But we would have failed entrepreneurs, because there's no such thing as an entrepreneur in this industry. People don't see the light of starting anything in this industry. We would have failed millions of people that have lost hope of ever finding a work. That's a crime towards South Africa. And it is with this in mind that we've come to these negotiations. I understand that we have completely opposing interests. I understand that. There are employees that want to improve their standards of living. Ladies and gentlemen, you must believe me when I say to you that I understand that, because I cannot live on the wages that some of you live. Well, that is true. Oh, it is true. So whether I say it or whether I don't say it, that's the truth. The question is, how do we address this? Well, you would have known it even if I didn't say it. And we understand that. But there are employers all over the spectrum that can't even afford the current dispensation, let alone an improved dispensation. And they're not the rich guys. They're the guys that if you press them all, they simply close their doors. Not because they're spiteful, because they have no option. Because if they go to a bank and say, help me more, and the bank says, no, we're not going to, that's the end of the road for them. So, this is the conflicting interest. Much is made of things like executive pay. Now, I think we must have negotiations between workers and guys getting those executive pays. But that will exclude NEASA. Because our guys don't get executive pay. I think it's a good idea. They must be in one room, and they'll explain that to you. But I don't know these people. I only read of them like you do. And when I see them in a distance. You know what? Let me tell you something. I come to the conclusion that when we negotiate over the crumbs, the leftovers. It's like one slice of bread over a huge bread. And people killing each other for the one slice. The money lies elsewhere. I don't know where it is. If you find it, tell us. But it's not here. Gentlemen, what I'm going to say now is radical, and the facilitator this morning said he knows the Afrikaans word of bliksem. Bliksem. Right? Maybe you want to bliksem me when I say that, but don't do it. But it is impossible to marry the demands of workers in respect of a living wage and the issue of sustainability of business and job creation in the same negotiations. It's simply too far apart. If you win in the one, you lose in the other. And that is a problem with our collective bargaining model. And the Minister of Labour said it needs to change, but that doesn't count much for you, because the fact that she said it won't change it. The Minister of Finance said it must change. The Governor of the Reserve Bank said it must change. All these people call on industries to negotiate minimums and to negotiate the higher stuff on a different level, because the ability of companies differs. You cannot have a one-size-fits-all into an industry. You cannot have it. Well, you can have it, but what you'll have a very small industry. Sustaining jobs and business is on the opposite spectrum of the living wage debate. For years, this industry has been engaged in living wage negotiations, and that's why we simply cannot create work on the bottom. That the entry, the door into this industry has been closed completely. Those who are in is in. Those who's out will remain out. And heaven forbid if you fall out, then you'll stay out. And that's all we've thrown all of these issues into the same mix. That's why we do not create work. I did not ask to address our proposals. I was asked to do it. So now I'm doing it. Look, once I've done it, Busi will escort me out of the building, and you will not see me again. I will leave this for the other people to sort out, because I might be killed today. The guys here said they will not do it. Here it is. And I'll explain it, but there's certain things you don't need to explain, it's just pretty obvious.